This is a very important time for all of us in this country and especially for our city in Portland, and we're going to be talking about that especially. This press conference is being called by the Portland Immigrant Rights Coalition, which is a coalition made up by members of our community, faith communities, labor organizations, grassroots organizations, and other community organizations in general. Portland day laborers and faith, immigrant, and civil rights advocates are joining in a national day of action against Arizona SB 1070, which requires local law enforcement agencies to enforce federal immigration law and interrogate and even jail people based on whether they look undocumented. SB 1070 was passed by the Arizona legislature and approved by Arizona Governor Jan Brewer on April 23rd, just last Friday. Portland advocates concerned about the precedent set by the bill are holding this press conference on the heels of this decision. Throughout the nation, community groups and organizations will hold local events like this one today and throughout this week, and coordinate advocate efforts to uncover the truth on these dangerous programs. Arizona SB 1070 gives police a mandate to racially profile, as we were saying, Romeo from the Day Labor, from both was stating. We are standing in solidarity with the people of Arizona against this bill and calling for a moratorium on collaboration of local law enforcement with ICE. Locally, the recent introduction of the Secure Communities program into Clackamas County Jail raises the stakes in Oregon for similar collaboration between ICE and local law enforcement officials. And that is a very dangerous thing that is happening to our state. Our communities and groups that are here present and the ones that couldn't make it today have to deal every day with this situation, supporting and working hand by hand with people that have been victims of this kind of harassment and racial profiling. Today we have a number of community members that are going to be speaking up and giving their own statements about this situation. We're going to start with Dagoberto Flores, who is a member of the Salvadorians United of Oregon.
My name is Dagoberto Flores. I'm a member of Saludo, Salvadoreños Unidos de Oregon, Salvadorian United from Oregon. Our emotions are high. I'm going to try to read about what everybody knows is happening in Arizona right now. With the passage of the SB 1070 in the state of Arizona, Saludo, Salvadoreños Unidos de Oregon, expresses its deepest concern about the degeneration of state law and the distortion of the role of civil society servants of the local police. But above all, our major concern is about the latent threat that hangs over hundreds of thousands of poor Latino immigrants who are victims of vicious persecution. We want to express our feelings of solidarity towards all residents in the state of Arizona who now fear the violation of their civil rights. We sympathize with all the popular organizations in Arizona and other states which are struggling against the implementation of this law through all necessary legal means. We also express our readiness to support the various activities carried out to solve this problem. We call, first, President Barack Obama to urgently expedite the necessary laws to resolve in a more humane way the immigration problem and to not distort the functions of Immigration and Naturalization Administration. To Governor Jan Brewer, criminalizing poor Latino immigrants is not the way to solve the economic or social problems of Arizona. The economic contribution of this sector of society far exceeds the cost that they cause. The current economic debacle can be explained by the poor performance of those who direct it, and not in the lower layers of society who are only victims. To the citizens of Arizona and other states who consent this type of laws, we cannot continue playing on the wrong side of history. Although the feelings of hatred are disguised as SB 1070, these feelings are not different than those which damage the progress of this nation. To all progressive organizations and advocates for civil rights, to step up the fight against this kind of thinking that damages the progress of this nation, to educate society on the understanding of their civil rights. It was once said, America for Americans. And in this continent, the Mexicans is American. Guatemalan is American. Salvadorian is American. That is, any human being born both south of the Rio Grande and north of it is an American.
I'm Father Bob Krueger. I am retired pastor and priest moderator here, and previous pastor of two mixed ethnic parishes who had a number of immigrants. We had hoped today to bring a statement for this occasion from our Archbishop John Blasney, but Archbishop Blasney is in Europe and we were not able to get a statement. We do have the support of the people in his office to the goals of this press conference. I do have a relevant statement by the Archbishop from his newspaper column a few weeks ago. He said, whether the migrants arrive legally or not, one of the fundamental requirements of our faith, based on the teachings of Christ himself and the Catholic social teaching, is care for aliens and newcomers. I would like to make a comment about these words. They are based on the understanding of justice and compassion from over 3,000 years of Judeo-Christian tradition, and also on Jesus' call to be compassionate as our Heavenly Father is compassionate, with his example of the Good Samaritan that extends compassion and humane treatment even to the enemy. And it's a compassion that is also God's gift to all humankind through creation. Our Archbishop recognizes with the other Catholic bishops of the United States that our nation's immigration system is a failed system and is damaging to great numbers of people and their families, people who are already victims of a flawed global economic system, and causing immense pain of fear and anxiety for most members of the immigrant community, regardless of their status relative to documentation. For these reasons, the bishops continue to make an urgent call for comprehensive immigration reform, for which they have proposed a set of recommendations. Because of the oppressive situation, a number of bishops, including Archbishop Blasney, have called also for a moratorium on raids by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents to apprehend, incarcerate, and deport undocumented immigrants until reform is complete. With regard to the new Arizona law, the Church deplores it and will work for its repeal, as before passage, the bill was condemned by the Arizona Catholic bishops. With regard to the local Secure Communities programs, this last Sunday, parishioners of St. Francis of Assisi Church were outraged when informed that ICE agents were housed at Multnomah County jail facilities and enjoyed the cooperation of the sheriff in apprehension and detention of undocumented county residents. a strong majority of parishioners signed a petition for the removal of the ICE agents from the jails and to demand that the county not assist with enforcement-only immigration policies. That experience indicates that our parish strongly supports this denunciation of anti-immigrant initiatives. And my experience of pastoring parishes having many immigrants tells me that the pastors of the dozen or so mixed ethnic Catholic parishes in Multnomah and Clackamas counties and their parishioners who regularly hear the stories of immigrant pain would support this denunciation, as I think would Archbishop Blasny, whose past statements and actions are consistent with these goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we want to hear from Shizuko Hashimoto, who is a member of the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon, APANO.
Hi, my name is Shizuko Hashimoto. I'm here representing the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon to express our deep concern over the current situation in Arizona. Last Friday, Governor Jan Brewer signed into law SB 1070, a law that gives local law enforcement agents the power to stop and check the documentation of any individual where, quote, reasonable suspicion exists that the person is an alien who is unlawfully present in the U.S. This law will require that everyone carry identification papers at all times, though it is clear that Latinos and other people of color will be targeted by this law. During World War II, more than 100,000 Japanese-born and Japanese-American individuals were placed in concentration camps during a shameful period of U.S. history. These individuals, many of them citizens, some second, third, even fourth generation Americans, were judged as enemies solely because of their ethnicity, the color of their hair, the shape of their eyes. Condemned them and they were sent to live in concentration camps. They were judged solely upon their race. In 1988, Congress passed legislation which apologized for the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II and stated that the government's actions were based on, quote, race prejudice, war hysteria, and a failure of political leadership. Fast forward to 2010. Anti-immigrant sentiment is running high, and in Arizona, a law championed by Arizona State Legislator Russell Pierce, who has very clear ties to neo-Nazi movements, passes. The governor signs this hate into law. This law is based on racial prejudice, hysteria, and it demonstrates a clear failure of political leadership. APANO stands by our immigrant brothers and sisters in Arizona in calling for political leadership from the Obama administration. SB 1070 is a violation of basic civil rights, and it is an affront to our nation's Latino immigrants and all communities of color. There is an urgent need for just and humane immigration reform in the United States. Millions of immigrant workers contribute their blood, sweat, their tears, and their hope for a better future to this country. As the Obama administration and the U.S. Congress debate immigration reform, we sincerely hope that they take into account the true consequences of strengthening collaboration efforts between local law enforcement agencies and ICE. When we compel local law enforcement agencies to enforce federal immigration law, we open the doors to dangerous practices which we're now seeing in Arizona.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to hear from two students from MECHA, Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlán, from Portland State University and PCC, Melissa Sarbia and Sylvia Put.
Hello, my name is Melissa Sarbia, and I am the secretary for the Chicano student movement at Portland State University. We are a group that fights for human rights, and we are advocating that the President of the United States stop this law. This law goes against everything that we believe in. We are against the oppression of all people in all of its forms. We will not stand and watch as our people are targeted because of the color of their skin. SB 1070 is a violation of civil rights. Currently in the United States, there is approximately 44 million Latinos, and in 2050, we are said to be the majority in this country. We call out to the community to stand in solidarity with Arizona and with Clackamas County and Multnomah County with the recent ICE and police collaborations. We will not accept the oppression of people anymore. This is not right. This is not what this country stands for. And I would like to read a quote by a man named Corky Gonzalez. He was one of the leaders of the Chicano movement in the 1960s. At Arizona State University, he had a speech on October 14th, 1970. He said, "If one of us is in jail, we are all in jail. If one of us has a bad education, we are all badly educated. If one of us has a problem, we all have a problem. We must stand in solidarity against this law."
Hello, my name is Silvio. I'm from Portland Community College, and I'm also part of the student movement. I'm the historian. And we are completely opposed to the decision on Senate Bill 1070 by both legislatures and Governor Jim Bromer of the state of Arizona. This bill is a threat and a racial profile against our community. Not only against undocumented people, but also people of color, citizens. It's a threat that should not be allowed to be enacted. It's really important that we take action, that we not let this bill to affect our communities. It is like the law that Jim Crow, it's like the Jim Crow law passed in the 1980s, which segregate and discriminate people. It is important that we stand up and not let this us to put down. It is definitely a threat to our communities. Please support us and work with us. Enacting this law overlook the diverse human struggle that all our ancestors had to overcome in order to immigrate to this nation. We challenge you to ask yourself, what struggle did my parents, grandparents face in order to become citizens of the United States? If this answer of this question is not definitive, then you have no base for creating law concerning the immigration of people.
Thank you, Silvio. And now we want to invite Damon Turner, Human Rights Commissioner from the City of Portland.
The City of Portland Human Rights Commission strongly condemns the passing of Senate Bill 1070, signed into law in Arizona on April 23, 2010. This bill gives Arizona law enforcement license to stop citizens and non-citizens to check their immigration status based simply on reasonable suspicion that individuals are in the country without proper documentation. Subsequently, the law opens the door to open-ended discrimination, given that there are no concrete guidelines for what reasonable suspicion means. And this is open to varied interpretation by any law enforcement official. The Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution states in part that the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause. According to the Supreme Court decision in Johnson versus United States, the Fourth Amendment requires for standards of probable cause for an arrest and search that the facts and circumstances within their knowledge and of which they had reasonably trustworthy information would lead a prudent person to believe that the arrested person had committed or was committing a crime. Therefore, a probable cause to arrest must exist before the arrest is made. In addition, Article 7 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states in part that all are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law. And although this does not have the effect of law or a treaty, many international lawyers believe that the amendments in the Declaration form a part of customary international law. Therefore, under this new Arizona law, the only probable cause that a law enforcement official needs to think that a person may not have proper documentation is subjective. In other words, from here on out in Arizona, you are potentially suspicious simply by being Latino, or for that matter, Asian, African, or Middle Eastern. Consequently, the Arizona law is not only potentially unconstitutional and therefore illegal, but in addition, under international law, immoral and potentially illegal as well. Let us be clear on the real motivating factors behind this legislation. The central issue in Arizona in regards to this new law is not about immigration per se. It is about the Arizona legislature's extremely inappropriate response to recent issues related to public safety and the drug trade from the United States neighbor to the immediate south, as the type of killings and safety of law-abiding citizens has recently been abridged by spilling into Arizona. Immigration, as a result of both public misperception and, frankly, prejudice, has become the scapegoat public policy issue in which this law has been framed. It is not only unfortunate on a human level, but it is inaccurate on a policy level. The Human Rights Commission calls upon our community to do two things. A, honestly and comprehensively address the issues within our southern western states in relation to the public safety of all that are being affected by violence from the drug trade with our southern neighbor. And B, finally come together to enact comprehensive immigration legislation reform at the national level that is humane, lawful, and economically sound. God bless us all in this collective effort, for we have a lot of work to do.
We're going to have Shizuko Hashimoto again talking to us a little bit about the Safe Communities Project and what is really starting to happen also in the state of Oregon. If you didn't know, about 2 weeks ago, the first county that signed the commitment, the agreement with the federal government with Safe Communities was Clackamas County. Secure Communities, it's Clackamas County, and Shizuko is going to talk to us a little bit on what's happening with that.
I also work for the Portland Central America Solidarity Committee, and our organization is part of a coalition of civil rights and immigrants' rights organizations under the umbrella of a group called the Safe Communities Project. We came together about a year ago really concerned about what was happening in Arizona with the 287G program, which enabled local law enforcement agents to act as immigration and customs enforcement agents. We turned our sights to our own communities to understand a little bit more of whether these types of collaborations were scheduled, were planned in our communities, and we found out some disturbing things. The counties of the Portland metro area, Washington, Clackamas, and Multnomah County all currently have ICE agents who are stationed in the jails. In addition, as Marco mentioned 2 weeks ago, it was announced that Clackamas County was implementing the Secure Communities program, which is an initiative of the federal government under the Immigration and Customs Enforcement that really creates a very strong link between local law enforcement agencies and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We are calling on our county officials, both sheriffs and county commissioners, to really take a look at the impact of local law enforcement collaboration with immigration and customs enforcement in terms of community safety and trust of the police, community policing efforts. The cost, you know, are our local counties and our local taxpayer dollars going to detaining individuals for deportation. And also family unity. It's really important. We understand that immigration reform needs to happen, but in the meantime, why are we continuing to deport individuals, breaking apart families, and really doing nothing that is good for our communities? So it is really important as we look, as a nation's eyes are turned to Arizona, to really understand the impact of local law enforcement collaboration. And when I say local, I mean local, Multnomah, Clackamas, Washington County Sheriff's Offices with immigration and customs enforcement. And we make the call to our elected officials to please take a look at those agreements and those collaborations and have an understanding of how they will impact Portland's immigrant and refugee communities.
Thank you, Shizuko. Just to finish this part, I just wanted to restate the intentions and the commitment of the Portland Immigrant Rights Coalition. We believe that no human being is illegal. What is illegal is the causes of immigration that are created here in the first world, in the United States, by the corporations and the free trade agreements, and the violations of human rights and the wars that they create. That's what is illegal. And also the systems that are punishing the people that have been affected by all of that, that have to come here to look for better life and to feed their kids and their families. And we oppose that. We are going to continue, the coalition is going to continue working to stop this kind of laws in the country, and also especially here in Oregon. And that's our commitment. As Shizuko was saying, this is an expression of the broken system that we have, the immigration broken system. And it's going to happen. And it's not just happening in Arizona. It's starting to spread all over the country. And we need to stop that. So we need to united continue working on that. I really appreciate and thank you the presence of all of you that came today, the press, and especially the community organizations that are present here. And that's the indication that also we are all together.